So it is 1 o'clock in the afternoon. 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday, and it's time to finally get up. Um, I don't have much planned today. It's gonna be kind of like the other day. But I mean, yeah, I lost the day. It's gonna be just kind of like a little bit of editing, maybe read some news. I'd like to see some polls to see like are there any polling in these places, like Ohio or Pennsylvania. They did some polls, but that was before the debate in Michigan and before the results in Michigan, which seems to have made a big difference, right? So they're gonna want to use their polling averages to screw up the results and all these kinds of things. What they really want to do is just do some polling now, um, like maybe even over the weekend kind of thing, and then just like forget all the rest of the polls because they don't matter anymore. But it wouldn't be nice to see a little bit. I can't tell you what's going to happen unless I look at the poll, and there's no polling. I can't tell you. I can just guess, right? So yeah, um, stuff like that. So it's gonna be kind of a lousy day, and largely probably designed around the necessity to wake up at a reasonable time tomorrow to get to see Faust. So that's what I'm really planning on cycling around. Haven't checked the weather in a few days, etc. Like I'm waking up out of a coma, sort of thing. So things to do, but nothing too exciting. Some polls, great. Illinois, yes. The NBC poll that puts Clinton at 51 was taken from the 4th to the 10th. This is a polluted sample. But I would suspect that Sanders takes a huge lead in polling after the 8th. So this poll likely overstates support for Clinton by integrating data before last Tuesday. I want to be clear about what I'm doing here. I'm doing exactly the opposite of what the aggregates want to do. They want to say that you want to average polls over a longer distance to smooth the data out. That works fine in some circumstances, like measuring responses to advertising. You can buy a sandwich the day of the polls or the day after or a month later even, but it's simply awful modeling for politics. The aggregate sites will point to this poll as more accurate because it was taken over a longer period. But I'm suggesting the longer period is just polluting the sample. Based on that poll alone, I would suggest a slightly better result than we saw in Michigan. There is another poll with Sanders ahead at 48 to 46. I guess there's 6% undecided. On the one hand, this is an internet poll, and the predictive abilities of internet polls are widely variable. There is no margin of error. On the other hand, it was conducted March 9th to 10th, so that's after the event. So despite not liking the methodology, this is entirely consistent with everything that I'm saying. I don't have a good pool, but I don't want to just average them out either. The reality is that the data for Illinois actually looks better for Sanders than the data for Michigan did. Plus, Illinois is a very blue state. It is actually reasonable to predict a comfortable Sanders win if you consider that this is an open primary, the state is full of liberals, and the phone polling is being done with Democrats. But the correct answer is that the data is inconclusive. Something to note, though, is that Illinois will likely provide the data that is necessary to permanently throw away the racial theories of support. It's going to split on a left moderate axis, and that will assert itself across racial lines. The question is just, can Sanders pull more moderates out of independents? How much is Clinton going to bleed to Trump? How many moderates can she get to vote for her? And these sorts of things. I think it's clear where the lines are drawn. It's just a question of who can get the turnout the most. And that's what Sanders has been saying the whole time. If he gets high turnout, I'm going to say this here because this won't be up until well after it comes up. I think that Sanders is going to win Illinois by a large margin. He may even get 70%. Ohio. We're looking at the same breakdown in the two polls. The phone poll is sampling over too long of a period and over a defining pivot point, while the internet poll is solely after the defining event, and Sanders is doing better in the polling done solely after Tuesday. There is again not a perfect poll here, but there is reason to suggest a very close result, given that they're strictly polling Democrats. But remember, Ohio is very purple. It doesn't have the liberal base that Illinois does, and it doesn't consistently lean Democrat like Michigan does. So the polling if you read it right, doesn't look so bad, but the demographics are less in Sanders' favor than Michigan or Illinois. I think Ohio is going to be very close. Florida. Clinton is comfortably ahead here, and the event doesn't seem to have registered much. Florida is the old folks' home of the nation, and these voters tend to be low information and driven by routine. So Bernie needs to try and keep it under 60%, and that is key, because Florida is a very big state. I think it's obvious Clinton will win. The news reports will say something about, blacks or Latinos or, women. I think that if you look at it a little bit more closely, you'll see that the reason that she's going to win Florida is because she's going to demolish him with the old folks vote. She could get 90% of the over 50 vote, and that's what's going to have her win that state. Bernie needs to hope that Clinton stays under 60 and doesn't run away with it too much, because there's a lot of delegates there. Missouri, there's literally no polling. It's a purple state. I would expect it to split. North Carolina, also no polling. Now listen, Obama won North Carolina in 2008, but Obama is a conservative, so that's not so strange. And one must again expect Clinton to win North Carolina very comfortably. I am throwing around 60 as a number in Florida. I think that 70 is a number in North Carolina. If he can keep it under 70, then he can get a couple delegates out of it, and that's what he's got to be hoping for. And I believe he did keep Virginia under 70 as well. So that's probably close to what you're looking at there. And that is the takeaway, okay? If he wins big in Illinois, and I think he might, then he could gain delegates, right? So he might come away with more delegates if he wins big in Illinois. Otherwise, he's going to be struggling to not get further behind. But remember, it was always about California. Always. When this started, it was about California. And hence what happens between now and California is not so great of importance. Obviously, he wants to prevent her from getting too far ahead that California doesn't matter, but that's probably not going to happen. There's a couple of states coming up. He has to win New York by a substantial margin. But it was always going to come down to the vote in California and who can get the most delegates there. It was always about that. Okay, so don't get too excited or too lost or too upset or whatever. It was just always about that vote. Until then, you do what you can. You get out and you vote, but it's not going to be decided until June. Deal with it. Okay, so let's be clear about exactly what it is that I did yesterday, or the day before. I live right here. That's Windsor, Ontario, right? And I walked just over the tunnel, not very far, down in there. Took the tunnel bus over to here, wasn't very far. Right, and then I took the 200, which went from here all the way up this road here, all the way down that road. And it dropped me off right about there. I then walked a little bit past here to about there, and then I hitchhiked from here down to, it was off there, and I actually got dropped off right about there, right? And I took the bus again from there to here, and that's where I saw the show. On the way back, I took the bus from there to there. I took another bus, which went, kind of all the way around here, but eventually dropped me off about here. Got off the bus, hitchhiked from there up to there. So you can see that the hitching part of this is relatively small, right? And I walked up to here, took the bus, up to I'm not sure exactly where it was. It was somewhere around here. And then took another bus to the bus station here, walked to the bus, got off, walked home. Right? So we can see that the hitchhiking spot is about that amount of space, right? On the way back, I'm gonna get dropped off at the McDonald's on the other side of the highway, and on the way there, I don't really need to start hitching until I get past the mall, which is about here, right? And it's really not so bad. I could walk it. I'm not sure I'd really want to, but it is reasonable. Anyways, beyond that, it's this city here. It's this city of Canton that doesn't want to allow buses. Um, like I said, there's a mall there. There's a big mall. It wouldn't really be so crazy to have a bus go up to there and back, and have a bus from up to there. Maybe even some of the residents of Canton would enjoy bus services throughout their municipality, or maybe they're really that intent on maintaining a level of isolation. Who knows? All that's clear is that bus service does not exist. Believe it or not. Shrug. Regarding the Sanders side of the town hall this evening, the CNN skew on this was outrageous. The way the questions were phrased on the screen, the setups, etc. But the flip side of that is that they gave him some more space to respond. And that he responded very well. I think that the takeaway from this is going to make CNN look bad rather than work in taking Sanders down. I've never seen somebody manage to take the barrage and actually work it in his favor, and expect that this performance will give him a bump. He's earning this, and it's paying off. And regarding the Clinton side of the town hall, they weren't easy on her either. And it's not like she demonstrated a lack of insight, it's just that I don't agree with her on point after point. The healthcare bit, for example, had me cringing, even as she demonstrated a strong understanding and made her points well. I just can't believe anybody really actually believes that markets can reduce prices. I will say this town hall makes it clear where they stand on the spectrum. It makes the choice that much easier, and I do expect that the bump goes to Bernie. But maybe there's some middling centrist patriotism lurking under the surface too. And that's really what I meant when I was saying that is this kind of, America is the capitalist, and this other guy's a socialist. That's really about the only thing that Clinton's got going for her at this point. This kind of faint, patriotic market type perspective. It's really hard to see who's voting for her, except for what used to be called liberal Republicans. And that's really what she wants to turn the Democratic Party into, really what her husband wanted to turn the Democratic Party into, and what Obama has nearly succeeded in turning the Democratic Party into, is a party of liberal Democrats, which on some level is fine. Sorry, a party of liberal Republicans, not liberal Democrats, but liberal Republicans, which on some level is fine if that's what that wants to be, but it means that they're not going to be able to control the mass of workers. They're reducing themselves to a party of, isolated urban people, the party of government workers. And it's a reflection of the failure of their policies. If their policies were working, maybe that's the most simplest argument, and perhaps the most effective one, right? If the policies that Clinton put in place, and in large measure Obama emulated or modified only slightly. If these policies were working, would Bernie Sanders exist? And so the mere existence of your opponent is a demonstration of the failure of your policies. But it's hard not to realize that when you're trapped in this bubble. Because it does work for government. It's just failed to work outside of government. And you know, that's what this is, right? It's a referendum on whether you want the Democrats to be this party of liberal Republicans, you know, of the upper middle class, successful, you know, kind of this insular upper middle class bubble that exists in cities and is largely based around government jobs. Or does it need to be a broader based coalition of, you know, of liberals, of people with liberal social policies, but also that work in the private sector, right? Which, of course, is what, you know, all of these people would claim that they want, but their policies have not succeeded in allowing for that. You know, is there any particular reason? Well, they would tell you that there is, right? And it's a part of the problem. But like I say, it's maybe the simplest argument, but perhaps the most effective. The simple truth is that if Clinton's policies, or the policies that Clinton wants to carry on, if they actually worked, then Bernie Sanders would not exist. He couldn't exist, right? It's about 6 o'clock, and I'm focusing on two things. The first is whether seeing Faust in 2016 is worth the time and effort and money, considering that I've been in and out a few times over the last couple of days, and I may benefit more from just staying in and relaxing. I've checked some set lists of recent Faust shows, and it is clear that they are going to play largely new material. They may play a couple of older songs, but there have been Faust records released over the last 25 years, several of them. And that is the material that they're drawing on for the bulk of their set. Now, I really can't comment much on any of this because I simply haven't heard much of it. And I really just don't know. It's not the original band, which is probably something to do with the fact that they're not playing older material. In fact, it's really just the drummer and the bassist. And with Faust, both the guitars and the keyboards are important, although the truth is that Faust is primarily a rhythm section. So it seems questionable at this point. I'm certainly not going to see Faust. I'm going to see the rhythm section of Faust with some session musicians filling in. It's almost a cover band, right? I'm going to listen to some newer sets. I've already listened to a little bit, and it doesn't seem particularly exciting. At this point, I'm pretty much up in the air. See, here's the thing. You might hear this kind of, this is the last time you'll get a chance to see a band kind of rhetoric floating around. The guys in Faust have got to be pushing 70 years old. at this point. If they're not older than 70, I don't know. I actually looked. I wasn't able to find any information about their ages, but I mean they're in their late 60s or their early 70s. Um, I should not have this chance to see a band from Germany tour in a small bar in Detroit when they're in their 70s. That is itself bizarre. So, not only is this the last chance I will ever get to see Faust, I should not even have this chance, truly. But like I say, this isn't really Faust, right? It's the rhythm section from Faust and a bunch of other people, and they're mostly going to be doing material released after 1990, which is not what I psyched myself up to see. The reason I did the research was because I am disappointed in the Tortoise show. I know they just released a record, and they're trying to sell it and everything, but it just would have been nice. It was a lengthy set. They played for a while. They could have split the set up a little bit more, so there was a little bit more older material. But like I say, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that one of their guitarists has distanced themselves or distanced himself from the band. I think the band has also distanced themselves from him, meaning it's sort of mutual. And it may be a twist of history, an unfortunate twist of fate, if you will, that the band Tortoise is attached to this material, which it is perhaps less excited by than its fan bases. It may in the end turn out to be easier to see that material performed live in a solo David Pajot set. Even though I know that in all the interviews, everybody swears up and down that Jeff Parker did all the guitars and David Pajot was just kind of hanging out. It kind of doesn't add up. Not with styles. You can hear Pajot's style is slint, and you can hear it transfer over, and you can hear that Jeff Parker's style has not built on that at all. It seems to be something else entirely. So it seems to be like there was this period for a few records where like the band wasn't even attached to it, and like Pajot was just screwing around with whoever did the xylophones on the record, and it got released, right? But it wasn't what Tortoise wanted to be, and so when Tortoise got back together, it seems like a big mess, right? And I think a lot of that plays into the truth that they don't remember how to play any of that stuff, to the extent that a lot of it was never really played. They're very sparse sounding records, right? They don't sound like a band so much as they sound like a couple of people jamming, disconnected. That was the key to it, right? Was that it sounded so alien, and just out of it. But if that's not what they want to be, then who wants to sit around trying to force somebody to be something they don't want to be, right? It's not any fun. It's just it comes with a certain level of disinterest, and I'm sorry, but that's if you're looking for a duck and you get a chicken, it's just no disrespect. It's just not what I'm looking for. Funny thing is, I do love Crimson. It's just not doing it well. you know. And like I say, it's like later Crimson too. It's weird. The whole thing is weird. Anyways, so yeah, do I want to go see Faust perform a bunch of stuff from the '90s? Well, I don't know. I don't even know the material. So I'm gonna have to listen to this for a bit. I want to transfer over the archiving. I haven't done any archiving since I guess Wednesday, just because I've been in and out and vlogging and stuff, or editing the vlogs and all these kinds of things, right? So I want to get back to that. So I've got a few hours before I crash, one way or the other. I'm going to try to get a live set or two in. And if I can't hear anything I'm interested in, I'm going to have to pass on this. I mean, the whole point is to say that I saw Faust, but I didn't see Faust. If I go right, it's not Faust. It's the rhythm section of Faust performing material that. I mean, the set lists do indicate that they will play a couple of older tunes, but I don't know if it's worth it. So, like I said, I got to listen to a few more sets. And if it's just a bunch of aimless, fucking around, which it seems like it's going to be, I'm not. I'm not going to drag myself out there. I'll stay home. There's some other shows coming up in April that I think I'm a little bit more interested in. But yeah, I want to transfer over on the archiving to try to get my stuff from the last election cycle off. So I want to at least get that process, get it running, so that when I do get back to it either tomorrow or the next day, I'm able to kind of move through it. I don't think I plan on going to. I mean, I've got a few things I want to check out, but I don't really plan on going to anything else for the rest of March. It's just April coming up. So I had pointed out that around this time I needed to make a choice. I think I can get the April. I think I can get the election stuff off relatively quickly. Because it's just, I mean, the discussions are not nearly as in depth. And a lot of it is kind of like one-liners, right? So I'm thinking it won't be more than a few days if I sit down and do it. So I'm going to do that. And I mean, once I'm done that, then it's just, what else can I find? Can I combine a few things? And then I can get back to work. So it does look like the beginning of April is going to allow me to get back to what I'm doing. And all is well, but I want to get this process started. And I think that once I start it, I'll have a handle on what it is that it's going to take. And then from there I can try and work out what's left, kind of thing. But Faust, I don't know. Again, like I say, it's not Faust, so I need to listen a little bit more carefully before I can make a choice.